Is the empire where the sun never sets going through the worst economic conditions among the world's countries? The International Monetary Fund has issued a warning, predicting that the UK will be the only major industrialized nation to see economic contraction this year. The Washington-based fund revised up its predictions for the majority of advanced economies, but it said it expects the UK economy to fall by 0.6% this year. The UK is performing worse for several reasons. The number one reason is the cost of living. Budgets for households might become tight when inflation rises above 10%. While Rishi Sunak has set a goal to cut the inflation rate in half, the yearly growth in consumer prices is anticipated to decelerate this year. Nonetheless, the cost of living is still rising, albeit a little more slowly than it was in late 2022. Still, high energy retail prices would continue to be a burden on households, according to the IMF. The government has set a maximum on energy costs at £2,500 per year, which is increased to £3,000 per year starting in April and lasting until the end of March 2024. Some analysts predicted that bills could drop below the cap to roughly £2,200 starting in July as a result of a decline in wholesale gas costs early this year. However, this amount is still around twice what it was in late 2021. But Andrew Bailey, governor of the Bank of England, stated that the British central bank must see the job through in order to reduce an inflation rate that is now running higher than in any other significant wealthy nation. Politicians and some economists have pressed Bailey over the spike in inflation, and he stated that price increases have proven to be stickier than the Bow had anticipated. The second reason is tax increases. According to the IMF, people will also be impacted by tighter fiscal and monetary policies this year, which refers to Treasury-set tax and expenditure policies as well as Bank of England interest rates. Most of those unfunded tax cuts were repealed by Jeremy Hunt following the financial collapse brought on by Liz Truss's mini-budget. Increased taxes may have a negative impact on consumer spending and corporate investment. Taxes as a percentage of GDP are expected to reach their highest level since the Second World War by 2027 to 2028. In a rare public rebuke in September, the IMF criticized former Prime Minister Truss's proposals and pleaded with her to change her mind to avoid stoking inequality. The right wing of the Conservative Party is pressuring Sunak to lower taxes. Others have recommended that wealth taxes should be raised in order to balance the budget. Not just in the UK, but higher interest rates are a menace among the top countries. The base rate will rise to 4%, marking the 10th time since late 2021 that the Bank of England has increased interest rates. The increased cost of borrowing is anticipated to increase strain on consumers and businesses. It is anticipated that 2.7 million homeowners with short-term, fixed-rate mortgages will pay at least £100 more each month to refinance their debt at the higher rates. Economic activity may suffer as a result of consumers and businesses presumably reducing their expenditure to assist in covering increasing borrowing prices. New mortgages are more expensive when interest rates rise. Asking prices have not decreased far enough to offset this. Therefore, it is unlikely that first-time buyers will find home ownership more affordable shortly. If salaries grow more quickly than home prices do over time, housing will eventually become more affordable. These longer-term developments also depend on how well the housing market performs. In June, the UK's housing market had its fastest annual decline in 12 years as pressure from steadily rising mortgage rates increased. According to Halifax's most recent price index, real estate prices fell 2.6% in the year to June, the most since June 2011, and a substantial increase from the 1.1% annual fall seen in May. For the third consecutive month, prices decreased, falling 0.1% since May. The average price of a home in the UK has dropped from a peak of £293,992 in August 2022 to £285,932, £364,490. The next problem is labor shortages. What caused the labor shortage in Britain? Well, there are many reasons to say. Since the COVID-19 epidemic, unemployment in Britain has increased rapidly, which statisticians use to describe the situation, where people of working age are neither employed nor seeking work. There have been unprecedented levels of long-term sickness and early retirement among older workers. According to the Center for Cities think tank, more than 3 million working-age persons who report being economically inactive might be added to official unemployment data, causing the rate of unemployment in the UK to be 3 times higher than what is indicated by government statistics. The shortages are also made worse by stricter post-Brexit immigration regulations. According to the think tanks UK and a Changing Europe and the Center for European Reform, the loss of free movement will result in a shortage of more than 300,000 jobs. In the UK, there are about 1.12 million open positions. Although there has been a little decline from the preceding quarter, this figure is still significantly greater than it was before the pandemic. At 1.25 million, the number of unemployed persons has also somewhat declined. Despite the fact that there are more unemployed persons than open positions, those numbers are quite close. In plain English, that indicates that there aren't many individuals to go around. Roles that are specialized or in a specialty become particularly harder to fill in these situations. This indicates that we also have a skills deficit in addition to the labor crisis. A labor shortage occurs when there is a discrepancy between the demand for labor and the supply of labor that is on the market. The number of persons who are employed and the number of open positions are added together to calculate labor demand. Additionally, the number of employed people must be added to the number of unemployed people. The demand for workers is currently higher than it was before the epidemic, while the supply of workers is lower than it was before the crisis. The dramatic rise in the number of economically inactive persons is a major factor in this. This indicates that they are not employed and are not looking for work. Early in 2022, the ONS conducted a poll of persons between the ages of 50 and 70 who had stopped working since the start of the pandemic. According to the report, 63% of them left their jobs earlier than anticipated, and many of them have not come back. Last but not least, Brexit. Even among Leave voters, only 1 in 5 believe that Brexit has had a good influence on the country's economy, according to 2/3 of the general public in the UK. This article examines the data for 3 crucial areas, including trade, migration, and investment, as well as the overall macroeconomic effects. Overall, it appears that the impact on trade has largely followed projections so far, although the impact on immigration has been significantly less negative and possibly even positive, and the impact on investment has been somewhat worse. The best estimate of the negative effects of Brexit on the UK's GDP to date is between 2 and 3% of GDP. Business leaders issue a warning that Brexit-related costs and red tape are hurting UK trade. Overall trade volumes recovered after a 40% initial decline in UK exports to the EU in the first month following the conclusion of the Brexit transition period. The UK, however, has not performed as well as other sizable economies have. Brexit's most glaring and immediate effect was the reintroduction of considerable trade barriers between the UK and its biggest trading partner, the European Union. That's it for today. What do you think of the crisis in the UK? Let us know in the comments below. For more videos like this, subscribe to our channel.